Hi everyone, this is Carrie with Side by Side Educational Consulting. We work side by side with educators to improve outcomes for all students. Today I want to talk to you about 4 ways that we can get kids to actually use their new vocabulary in their everyday language. So I know we spend time teaching vocabulary, but what can be frustrating about that is they might learn it maybe for the test or what the assignment they're doing, but they don't actually own that vocabulary and then use it. And that's the whole goal. So I want to talk to you about some ways that you can motivate kids to be using that vocabulary. The first thing that I want to talk about is ADEPT diction. So that's just a fancy way of saying that we as the teacher need to be modeling the use of that vocabulary just in our everyday teaching. Not just during reading time, not just during science time when we're teaching those science words, but we're going to make sure that we're really purposeful and intentional and using that vocabulary as we're teaching. So for example, if we had taught the word saunter, for example, nice tier 2 word, the word saunter, I might say, boys and girls, it's time to get ready for lunch. I need you to push in your chairs and saunter over to the door to line up. So I'm being purposeful even in my own speaking, my own diction, in ensuring that I'm using those words purposefully every day. Another thing that you can do is just make sure that you have those words posted in the classroom with the definition. So just that visual. And a great thing to make sure that you have are pictures that represent those words. So whether you do that on a board, in a pocket chart, there's lots of different ways that you can do that, but you have those words posted. Helps you as the teacher remember to be purposeful and intentional in using those words. But a really great way that I saw a teacher to get kids to want to use those words in their everyday language was she had those words posted, but then anytime a child or a student had used those words, one of those words in their speaking, or they came to her and told her that they'd heard it on television the previous night, or they came to her and came up to her and told her that they found it in a book that they were reading. So they're really on the lookout for those words and using those words. Anytime they did that, they got to write their name on a sticky note and then place it next to the word that she had posted. And then at the end of the week, she was looking for how many kids had used, which kids had used which words, and giving them kudos for that, and then just talking about which words they used the most that week. Just doing that alone, she was able to get kids to be more aware of those words, and they were motivated to use those words. Another method that I've seen a teacher use in his classroom was a vocabulary jar. So he had a great big jar on his desk, and then every time that the students were using any of the vocabulary, previously taught vocabulary, he would put a marble in the jar, and every time they had got the jar filled up to the top, there was some type of reward. They all got to go outside for extra recess, or they all had some extra time at lunch. Any type of little reward that you can do to just motivate kids, that's what they were able to do once they filled up the jar. Kids were always trying to use those words so they could go put a marble in a jar, and it was very visual for the kids because they could start to see how close they were to filling up that jar. So a vocabulary jar can be very, very motivating as well. And the last thing that I want to talk about is just a vocabulary ring. This is pretty simple, but it can also be pretty powerful. So, and it's another thing that I saw a teacher do. Basically, she just had little cards where they kept the vocabulary words for the unit or theme that they were teaching. And she even did it kind of fancy in terms that the little cards were color-coded. So one story, maybe all the cards were white. One story, all the cards were yellow. One story, all the cards were green. So the kids could kind of keep track for which text the words went with. And then she had one of those little metal rings that she kept all of the words on, and just punched in the top left-hand corner a hole, and then just kept all of the words on a ring. So the kids had a vocabulary ring. Okay, they had that vocabulary ring. On one side they'd written their vocabulary word, on the other side they had the vocabulary definition. And so she used that vocabulary ring in all kinds of different ways. They might have a few minutes at the end of a period to review. So she'd say, okay, get out your vocabulary ring. Everyone would get out their vocabulary ring, and she'd maybe give example sentences or give the definition, and the students had to flip to the word, and she'd say, show me, and they had to show her the word on the vocabulary ring. They also played games with their partners, where maybe they played memory games with one another and matched the words. or they'd quiz each other on their words. So that's just another easy way to reinforce and motivate kids to be using that vocabulary in the classroom. So we talked about ADEPT diction. We talked about the vocabulary jar. We talked about posting the words in the classroom and then having kids recognized by putting their names on a Post-it note every time they use those words. And then I talked about vocabulary ring. If you found those methods helpful, give us a thumbs up and also be sure to subscribe to our videos. You can also find more resources at sidebysideconsulting.com. Thanks for watching.